You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. All right, so AOC and the squad pulled a big stunt today, and it just happened just a few minutes ago. Listen to this. Let me go through this. This is in the Daily Mail. AOC is among Democrat members of Congress, including fellow squad members arrested outside the Supreme Court during Roe v. Wade protest, and pretends like she's in handcuffs. So they take AOC and a bunch of people away. AOC puts her hands behind her back and puts her wrists together as if they are handcuffed together, and they're not.
She was pretending.
Yeah, Ocasio-Cortez was seen walking, escorted away by police with her hands crossed behind her back as if she were in handcuffs, but she was not. Others arrested included Ilhan Omar, Presley, Cori Bush, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Catherine Clark. A total of 34 arrests. 16 of them members of Congress were made at the demonstration today, according to Capitol Police. Well, you know, okay.
They were blocking traffic, which is probably the most selfish thing you could do as a protester, because you're affecting other people. But these people believe in abortion, so they have no problem affecting others.
Here's the thing about this today, and this is really, if you think about it, this overturning of Roe v. Wade that President Trump did, and make no mistake about it, President Trump overturned Roe v. Wade. I know technically it's the Supreme Court, but President Trump put justices on the Supreme Court that made this possible. So President Trump overturned Roe v. Wade. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. What's really amazing about it is, of course, first of all, what happened, because I never thought it would happen. I just never thought it would happen, because we've got all these hack judges at the federal level, all the way up to the Supreme Court. They get up there, they sell us out, they become rhinos. Do
you think when he interviewed them, that was like part of the deal?
I think that was the only deal.
I'll have you up there. Yeah. I'll put your name up there, but you have to work on overturning.
I think that was the only deal. I think that's all, and it's a good deal. So obviously the most amazing thing is that Roe v. Wade was overturned, and because of President Trump, millions of children will be born forever, which is amazing. But the second thing that is amazing, and almost as amazing, not as, because the other one saves millions of lives, but close to as amazing, is how little outrage about the overturning of Roe v. Wade there has been. The only people upset about it are some weirdo women who are gay, don't even have boyfriends and husbands to impregnate them. And then you have these fake stage things like AOC creating the illusion that people are upset where they're getting arrested. The country has changed on this like no one's business. If Roe v. Wade had been overturned by the Supreme Court like in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, all hell would have broken loose. And I think now this is something I just started really thinking about in the last week. The reason they haven't gotten the leaker in the Supreme Court case, I think the Supreme Court leaked it out on purpose to get people used to the idea before the ruling, to kind of cool things down. I think they expected, and I did too, and I think most people did, expected a huge nationwide, coast-to-coast, major marches in every city. And the only protests you really see are fake protesters in Washington, D.C. around TV cameras. If this had been 20 years ago, 30 years ago, every major city in America would have had massive marches of women pulling all kinds of ridiculous stunts. And there's really been no real organic protest upset at overturning Roe v. Wade. And I think that's really amazing. And it shows how much the country's changed, and how those of you out there like us that are conservative are mainstream, and the left are fringe.
Well, I think they were expecting a summer of rage with women across the country, suburban moms and all different kinds of women from all walks of life. I think they were really expecting endless protests and massive turnouts all summer long to really put pressure. But you're right, that hasn't happened. And they're pulling these stunts to try to get something going. It's not gaining the traction they wanted to gain. So now Biden's got a new crisis because anything to divert off the inflation and the gas problem and his disastrous administration. Now in the news, all they're pushing is climate because there's high temperatures, and they had some house was on fire in England, and it was actually on the national news here. I mean, give me a break. Houses catch on fire.
Well, what they're saying,
they're assuming they're trying to you think it's from the weather or something because it's so hot. Things don't spontaneously combust because the temperatures are up. I mean, it makes the weather maybe more susceptible, but houses catch on fire all the time.
What they're saying is, it came out earlier today, that Biden is going to issue an executive order declaring the climate is in crisis, right? And then what Kathy was talking about, so we're watching Fox today, and they have a local news helicopter in London showing this house fire. It is hot because it's the hottest time of the year. It's the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, outside of our house right now, the heat index is about 100, 102 degrees.
That's very typical.
Yeah. Now, the temperature's in the 90s, but it feels like it's about 100,
It is
102.
always in the low 90s in the summertime here.
Yeah.
And with the humidity, it feels like 10 degrees more.
Yeah.
And that's very typical of weather here. It has not changed.
And this fire they were showing in the UK is what Kathy said. They're trying to give this is like AOC with her hands behind her back, pretending to be handcuffed, And by the way, if the internet had not been around, and this was in the 80s, every news outlet would report that AOC had been handcuffed. The only reason we know she wasn't handcuffed is because with social media, you can't fake things like that anymore. But here in Florida, it gets hot as hot gets, I'm telling you. And I have never seen something just spontaneously combust because of the heat. No, what happens sometimes the Florida Everglades, there'll be fires in the Everglades. And usually, not always, but usually it's not spontaneous combustion from the heat. Fires start because there'll be a lightning strike. It'll be hot in the summer. So the sawgrass in the Everglades is dry. There'll be a lightning strike and it'll catch on fire. Not because of the heat. And this story in the UK, I have never in my life seen the news here in America carry a news feed from a local news outlet in London, England before, like they were doing with this house fire today.
In fact, there was just a fire the other day where a guy ran in and saved 5 people, a pizza guy. I mean, Can you imagine you have 400 cops at Uvalde standing around with their heads up their butts, doing nothing, washing their hands and checking their equipment and probably calling their wives and girlfriends, doing nothing. And while children were being slaughtered, they could hear the guns going off and they stood there doing nothing. And then you have this pizza delivery guy who was driving, saw a house on fire, ran in without even thinking. That guy should get the Congressional Medal of Honor. Ran into the house and saved 5 people by himself. Mm-hmm. Who the hell does that? Who is an ordinary person that runs, young guy too, runs into a burning, you know how hot that is? Just stand next to
a bonfire?
No, a bonfire. Or a little fire that you have, like a fire pit. Mm-hmm. I remember in high school we had a bonfire every year, and I stood a little bit, and boy, it is hot. Yeah. I can't imagine running into a burning building because the heat just alone keeps you back because it's so rough. Hot, and the smoke. That is bravery like you cannot imagine. A regular dude, a pizza guy.
Next time you're in trouble and there's an active shooter situation, order Domino's.
Exactly.
They get there real quick, too.
And they actually go in.
And if they don't get there on time, you get free pizza.
Oh, my
Do they still do
gracious.
That? Well,
but did they blame that fire on global warming? No. Fires happen.
This thing with Biden declaring a climate emergency, which is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. The whole purpose of doing this is because the American economy is about to enter a recession. Yes. And it's entering a recession because every financial expert is using that word. And that's a dirty word. And all these financial experts on television are big financial guys on Wall Street. They have tons of money in the market. They do not want to go into a recession because their money evaporates because the markets go down. They don't want a recession. And people that are on the national news that do analysis on the financial markets, that's like a dangerous word to use because you could. They believe that if they talk about it, they could cause a recession. So when they're talking about recession, they really mean it's coming.
I'm waiting for them to blame the economy on global warming.
Well, that's what's going on. They're going to blame it on Putin
next.
So a recession is a step away from a depression. Mm-hmm. And, there's been this story that's been going around the last few days that the average business advisor to Biden has 2.5 years of business experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That might include like being a business economics professor at a college. That doesn't mean that might be working at Starbucks during the summers when they were in college. That doesn't mean they've actually worked out in the corporate world.
Exactly.
And an average means that they got like one guy who actually had a job, but nobody else has had a job, and then they divided, and an average is out to 2.5 years. And
that's because he's bringing in all his friends. He's not bringing in anybody qualified. He's bringing in his friends that the hangers-on and people he owes favors to. And he's giving them these positions, but they have no experience to speak of. They don't know what they're doing, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, what it means the way they're running the country.
This is the problem. We're in, and I don't like saying this, we are entering a recession. And Biden does not have anyone around him, and I'm talking about his economic advisors. They don't know what to do to get us out of a recession. So they came up with this climate emergency, which is just total BS. I mean, come on, there's no climate emergency. That's just stupid. It's a distraction, but it's not your typical distraction. Like a lot of people, and this is like a real big pet peeve with me. Mm-hmm. So many of our conservative friends, if there's something in the news they're not interested, it's a distraction. That's a distraction. It's not a distraction because you're interested in another topic in the news. A distraction is this climate emergency Biden's going to declare. They're creating a crisis to try to divert the news and people's attention away from the economy.
To give you something else to worry about.
That's right.
So you're not worrying about putting food on the table or putting gas in your car. They want to replace that anxiety with something else that's contrived and fake.
Yeah.
So when you go to bed at night, instead of worrying about buying groceries the next day, you're worried about the planet. It's not going to work because nobody gives a damn right now about these radical problems.
It's not a problem. We were on yesterday's podcast. I read that article from 1989 warning that if we don't take action now, by the year 2000, it will be too late as climate refugees will be seen throughout the globe. Go back and listen to yesterday's show. It was crazy. I might read that on the radio tomorrow to people because it's so crazy. Maybe I'll wait for Biden to announce the climate crisis. I'll read the article from 1989 again. I'll do a dramatic reading on the radio.
What happens is, like you've said, they never let a good crisis go to waste. But this is a made up crisis. So what they do is they sit around in a room and they're like, okay, the temperatures are a little higher than they were last year, or it's really hot. There's a heat wave going on right now globally, which happens. So how can we use this? How can we take advantage of this? How can we get people's attention off of the inflation, off of the gas? And then they come up with this fake BS crisis. And you hear it was all over the news today, story after story of heat index and this and that. And they were talking about on The View and everywhere. It's like they put out the memo. And now this is what they want to divert your attention to.
Yeah, in this time of year, Kathy and I don't do very much because it's too hot.
I'm pretty much trapped in the house.
Yeah, Kathy won't leave the house till like October now. And me,
it's true.
I don't go out, and I go to the car from the front door, and then I go to the radio station, and then I go into the office building of the radio station and back to the car. And I'll check the mail later in the day, but it's hot and humid in Florida because it's the summertime. I mean, that's just the way it is. I was doing some work on the house on Sunday. I was up on the roof, and I got down off the roof. I told you I can't take this heat. I just can't. It's hot. So this is what they do, and this climate emergency. Part of it will be the COVID lockdown model. They had a very good run of control with COVID, and let me tell you, if things get really bad in this economy, like we're talking about, and hope and pray that they don't. This climate crisis that Biden declares, remember how wearing masks and all that stuff? They may start telling people to stay indoors. don't, and of course they won't limit their activities. They'll still fly everywhere.
They love control.
This is the thing about these celebrities, right? Yesterday we were playing Princess Harry, talking about climate change at the UN, and all these leftists that talk about climate change, the climate emergency we're going to get. All of them fly around more in a month than the average American flies in their entire lifetime.
In fact, Kylie Jenner, who owns 2 jets, she is a billionaire. She's like 25 years old. And she's got a big makeup empire. And she was in the Daily Mail today because climate activists are ripping her because she took a 12-minute flight on a private jet when she claims to be a big climate person.
Well, she flew.
So she's a hypocrite like the rest of them.
Well, listen, it gets worse than that. She flew 26 miles, right?
Yeah, on a private jet.
But she drove 30 miles in the opposite direction to get to the plane to fly another 26. If she would have just driven, she was much closer.
Yeah, in her big SUV.
So, yeah. so it wasn't even a Tesla.
Yeah.
They call her a climate terrorist.
That is crazy.
They call her a climate terrorist.
They just throw these words
They make
around.
all kinds of things up.
Oh, my goodness.
But all of these...
They're eating their own now. They're
all of these
leftists,
leftists, when Biden declares a climate emergency, you're going to see all these leftists, right? All of them, like AOC with the fake arrest and all this stuff. All of them fly around on private jets all the time. If there was truly a climate crisis where human activity was going to make it so that the planet Earth could not sustain life as we know it, these people would stop flying on private jets.
Right.
They would have their meetings and everything all by Zoom.
Exactly.
And the very fact that they fly around in private jets all the time tells you that they don't even believe it, or they wouldn't. And you know what? If there was a climate crisis of that level, there would be a big move to outlaw private jets. These people won't even jet pool.
No,
right?
I mean, it's crazy.
They fly commercial.
You know how much fuel a jet uses and how much exhaust it gives off? I mean, it's like a rocket ship, practically. They go 500 miles an hour.
And they fly them all the time.
Absolutely. All to fly 12 minutes, 26 miles is crazy. So they
don't even believe their own crap.
She's their sacrificial lamb right now. They need to make an example that they're not hypocrites. So they're calling her out on it. You have celebrities flying private jets all day long, but they're going to call her out on it and attack her with the timing of this, to make it look like they're not hypocritical and like, see, we even attack our own people over this.
And when Biden declares a climate emergency, which they say could happen this week, if he really believed that, he would not be flying Air Force One back home on the weekends.
So what does
that
mean? A climate emergency? What do you think they're going to do with this when you declare a state of emergency now?
I don't know if it'll be a state of emergency.
Okay, so a climate emergency, is it just to pass this thing he wants with Manchin to put pressure on him? Or are they going to utilize it somehow politically to control, manipulate, and get people to open their wallets?
It sounds like they won't do anything other than talk and make things seem critical to try to get us off the problems of $6 gas.
It's not going to work.
And everything else.
You know why? It's because this is why it doesn't work. Because everybody every day drives by about 5 gas stations around town. We drove to go to the lab today. I had to get labs. We drove by 3 gas stations on the way there. It's like a mile from my house. Then you drive home. Everybody every day drives by gas stations and they see those prices every day and it pisses them off.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a constant reminder of what's going on. And when they fill up the gas tank, my mom went and filled. My mom still works. She's 80 years old. And she drives around. She's a home health nurse, so she has to drive her car all day to visit patients. And she has to pay for her own gas. She is finally retiring. Not because she's too old to work, but she said the money I'm spending on gas
it's not worth working.
Is not making it worth my job. And it's true. She said I'm spending double what I was 2 or 3 years ago. She has a big car because she has all her nursing stuff in the back. She has a Kia Sorento like us. And she said, I am spending $80 a gallon and I'm burning through sometimes two tanks a week.
Not $80 a gallon, $80 a tank.
I mean, $80 a tank. I'm sorry.
It's not that high yet.
No,
it will
$80 to fill her car.
Wow.
I'm sorry. And she's probably filling it twice a week now. And she's like, it's just not worth it for me. So she said, I guess it's time for me to retire finally. Yeah. But she doesn't want to do it. But a lot of people are dealing with this. And it's a constant, everybody is. And it's a great equalizer this is an issue everybody cares about, okay? When you go for like those issues like Roe v. Wade or climate change, you're not going to get the whole country on board. You get a fringe group. The gas problem is something universal that everybody hates across the board, and it's a problem. And I don't know why he does not fix this problem. It's easy to fix. And they keep saying he's going to run again. He's going to run. And you told me in Saudi Arabia they pay 60 cents a gallon.
Well, it's not me. NBC News was in Saudi Arabia with Biden, and they went to a gas station.
Incredible.
And I don't know what currency they used there, but they did the exchange rate, 66 cents a gallon in Saudi Arabia.
That blows your mind.
We have more oil than Saudi Arabia in this country.
It's outrageous. All Biden does is blame people. Mm-hmm. It's the gas station's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's climate's fault. Have you ever heard him take any responsibility or fix anything? Never. All he does is blame everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's like a sickness.
Well, I was talking to a liberal caller today. They got very upset with me on the radio, Louisiana. And
oh boy,
I asked Louisiana, Joe Biden's been in Washington for 50 years. Can you tell me one thing that he's done? And they started, stop yelling at me and all these things. They get all. I said, stop being a victim and distracting. And I mean, that says a lot. And
they couldn't do it.
No, who can't? He's been there 50 years, and Biden couldn't tell you anything he's done other than enrich himself through corrupt deals.
He couldn't tell you what he did this morning.
Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And we've gotten some new Patreon supporters over the last week.
Oh, yes.
And thank you and welcome to all of our Patreon supporters. And, all Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. And those of you that are new Patreon supporters, I'll explain how that works. If you go to the Patreon page, and there's a link to our Patreon page in the description of this and every episode. And when you're a member, you have access to all the content there. It kind of looks like a Facebook page. It's kind of like the same setup as Facebook, similar. So what I do is after each podcast episode, I upload an edition of the podcast that has no commercials in it. I even edit out the live commercials that we do on the program, and I upload it right there on the Patreon page every day that we have a podcast. So that's how you get access to it. That's just for those of you that are new and may not know how it works. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you on each and every podcast episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Wesley, Rick, Nick, and Le Paul. I like saying that name, Le Paul.
I love that name.
Yes, these are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. And again,
it's very fancy.
If you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of this episode. Now, we're going to take a break now. I just produced a new commercial right before the show for Mike Lindell and MyPillow with President Trump in it.
That'll be awesome.
So, so I'm going to play that commercial in this break. It's going to start on the radio tomorrow, but you'll be the first to hear it, guys.
Get a sneak peek. Except
the Patreon supporters, because I'll edit it out. But so you guys will have to go on one of the podcast platforms here. But this is I saw President Trump talking about Mike Lindell. I've seen him talk about Mike Lindell many, many times at the Trump rallies. So I took President Trump from one of the Trump rallies and turned it into a commercial for MyPillow. So you'll hear it in this break. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be right back after this.
See this guy with the pillows on Fox? My pillow guy, Mike Lindell. Where is Mike? He is the greatest. First of all, he does make a great product, great pillows. I actually use them, believe it or not. He's been a supporter from day one. The My Pillow guy, thank you. And he's been with us right from the beginning.
As always, President Trump is right. The MyPillow is so good, even President Trump sleeps on one. Support Mike Lindell, President Trump, and The Steve Kane Show at the same time. Go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout for huge savings on MyPillow products. Promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at MyPillow.com. There are many documents in your life that need to be notarized. Either for personal or business, having a notary on hand will make things easier and much more efficient. At notarybymike.net, you can find a notary that will come to you. It can help you right away. There's no need to search all over town or wait in a long line at the bank. With notarybymike.net, you have all your notary needs in one place. It's easy, convenient, and fast. This is a company you can trust with all your documents. Notarybymike.net are members of the National Notary Association. You can schedule an appointment online today. They'll send someone out to you ASAP and handle all kinds of documents. Make notarybymike.net your personal notary of choice and never search again. Notarybymike.net, making notarizations easy and safe. The world is as challenging as it is fascinating. And if our children are going to survive and thrive, there'll be a lot of things they'll need to learn. The Etsy Shop, ELR Shop, sell educational items for kids that will inspire and educate. They have digital coloring books, puzzles, grammar practice sheets, alphabet workbooks, and much, much more. They're perfect for parents, teachers, and homeschoolers. ELR Shop on Etsy also have lots of digital items that you can download and use right away. Watch the wheels in their minds turn as they face new challenges and puzzles. They also offer affirmation cards as well as greeting cards to inspire the adults that are having a positive impact on children. Find them on Etsy. Just search ELR Shop. That's all one word. ELR Shop on Etsy. Every day is a season of life.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Pretty cool commercial for My Pillow with President Trump.
I love it.
You know,
he's a great salesman, Trump.
Our radio stations cover Mar-a-Lago. So... President Trump could hear that. It's kind of funny. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this thing with Twitter and Elon Musk, okay? Because there's some updates today. Twitter has been allowed by a judge to expedite its lawsuit against Elon Musk. They're suing him for backing out of the $44 billion takeover. Let me tell you something. What Elon Musk is, I think everything is going pretty much according to plan for Elon Musk with Twitter. Elon Musk has completely wrecked Twitter. And Twitter, they're so arrogant and stupid. They don't understand what's going on here, okay? I believe that in the last 2 months, Twitter is no longer pushing the news cycle. Am I the only one that feels that way?
Well, why do you say that? Is it just a hunch, or do you have
No, it's I watch and follow the news constantly.
Right.
And I don't see tweets and trending topics on Twitter be pushing the news. In fact, in the mornings, one of the first things I do, it's not the first thing I do, but when I first start doing my show prep in the morning, I check the trending topics on Twitter. And I check it twice. I usually check it when I'm first starting my show prep, but then after I've gone through the news, I'll check again. And I've been checking it more often, not to find something that's trending, but to find out how out of touch Twitter's trending topics are with what's really going on in the news. And what I find is the main stories in the news are not trending on Twitter anymore, and they used to. And what Elon Musk has done is with his exposure of the bots on Twitter is just totally taken their power away. And this lawsuit that Twitter is going after Elon Musk with is stupid. They should just let this go away, because what's going to happen, Elon Musk, you saw him on vacation with some other guy's wife or something.
He's as white as a sheet.
He wasn't with his wife. He was with this other woman.
I don't know, but
married.
he needs a serious tan. Do you see how white he is? I mean, he's like glowing. He's like the vampire in those vampire
He's
movies.
the richest man in the world.
My
I mean,
goodness.
can he get
I've never seen anybody so pale.
It's pretty.
I mean, he's literally. I thought he was wearing a white shirt. That's like how white he is.
And as white as he still is the richest African American.
It's shocking.
But what's going to happen, and this is why Twitter's so stupid and should let this go.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is laughing all the way to court. They think they've expedited it. We're going to get Elon. He's going to have to pay. Elon Musk is going to have discovery in this federal court case, and it's all going to be about the bots. And Twitter Elon Musk's position is they've been committing a fraud by falsely pushing, and not a fraud to everyone, including shareholders and him as a buyer of the company, to how many active users they have. And the number of bots is going to come out
a lot
in
of
discovery.
Things might come out, yeah.
And, Twitter, and you guys can do this too. What I've been finding with the Twitter trends is most of them are like paid. I'll go there right. This morning.
A movie that's coming out, like Thor.
I'll give you an example. This morning I saw trending Better Call Saul because they had a new episode last night.
Right.
There were 2 trends about Walt Disney World. All 3 of those, one was Splash Mountain, one, I can't remember what the other one was. All 3 of those were paid, sponsored, trending tweets by
There's nothing organic anymore.
And the other ones,
it's like they've gone corporate.
Yeah,
they're no longer like what they used to be.
And I did, when I do my show prep in the morning, I talk to you guys about this sometimes. I get up really early in the morning for 2 reasons. I like to do my show prep in the morning so I have the new and freshest news. And I want to wake up. So by the time I go on the radio, I've been up like 3 hours, so I'm awake. I hate these guys that do morning radio shows that sound like they're asleep. I've known guys my whole life like this. I don't like listening to that. I know you guys don't. But anyway, after I do my whole show prep, which takes about 2 hours before I leave the house, I spend 2 hours just in front of the computer going through the news. And if you follow me on Truth Social or Twitter, I tweet and post on Truth all of my show prep. Any articles that I read, I post to my Truth, which is Real Brian Craig on Truth Social and Brian Craig Show on Twitter. That's all my show prep. And then I go back to the Twitter trending topics, and there is nothing that I've seen in the news for the last week that's trending. Today they had Tucker trending.
Yeah.
And I know Tucker because I saw a promo yesterday on Fox was going to do something on TikTok. I didn't see one story in one news outlet that I go to in the morning, and I go to a lot of them about Tucker Carlson, but it was trending. So the trends are not the trends on Twitter are out of touch with the news cycle, which means that Twitter is no longer the driving force of news. And that happened because they were, I don't want to say discredited, I think they were exposed as fake by Elon Musk over the bots. And, the influence that they have by retweets and likes and everything, and it's not real. And now everyone knows it. It's like you've seen the wizard behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, and it's like, whoa. And Twitter very well could go the way of MySpace. It may always be with us, but no one's going to use it.
Well, I do notice on the news they're talking about Truth Social more.
Yes.
And that's because they're quoting Trump. And they're even on the liberal news outlets, they're showing his truths.
Yeah.
And Truth Social is really picking up steam. And I think a year from now, it is going to be the platform that everybody, there's liberals on there. There's all kinds of people on there now. I think people are leaving Twitter. They're going to Truth. They want to be where Trump is. We want to be where Trump is, and the liberals want to be. They're like a moth to the flame with this guy. They can't get enough of him. They secretly, deep down, I think, really love him because they're so obsessed with him and they can't stop talking about him. It's so funny because on The View, they hate him so much, but they talk about him all the time. On MSNBC, they're obsessed with him.
Yeah.
They're like stalkers. They never stop talking about the guy, and their obsession just doesn't wane.
Truth,
they love him just as much as we do, I guess, deep down in a weird way.
Truth Social is really coming along, and I heard from my friend in the UK Neil, that Truth Social just this week opened up in the UK. I don't know if it's all of Europe, but definitely in the UK.
Well, it needs to get on the Android, but do you think Android's not going to let them out?
Google has kept them out of the Google Play Store, but that's a big hit for them.
They might change.
There's one thing I'd recommend that Truth Social should do. Okay, and I know President Trump knows what he's doing, but when I do, and it depends on how you use the internet. I mean, I have an iPhone, so I use both my iPhone. But in the morning when I'm doing my show prep, I use my desktop iMac, and all the websites. You know how the websites have buttons on them to share on the different social media platforms?
Yeah.
None of them have a button for truth. And I'm talking about the conservative ones. Like Gateway Pundit, which is a very conservative one. They even have like Telegram and Gab buttons on all their news articles, and there's no button for truth. So when I'm on my desktop and I post something the truth, I got to copy and paste the link. And not a lot of people will do that. So you know what I mean? So for the story. So they really got to talk to these like Breitbart, Gateway Pundit, all the conservative online news outlets need to add a Truth Social button for posting. But by the time we get to the 2024 election, Truth Social is going to be where it's at. I mean, I want you guys to think about this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think it's really going to be hot by then.
I know a lot of us were on Twitter before Trump came down the escalator, but how much did you really use it? You know, I started using Twitter primarily after Trump came down the escalator, and he started using it. And the heyday of Twitter, the peak of Twitter, was because of President Trump. And you got to think,
absolutely. I think when he announced that he was not coming back on the platform, that's when everything started to go down.
For Elon Musk, that's when he wanted to bug out?
Yeah, I think so. I think he thought, well, it's totally useless without him. He's not going to admit that. But a platform without Trump is, you know.
And, you know, the thing about Truth Social, I mean, think about it.
Plus, he has truth, so he has a place where people can go where he is. So that's the draw.
What happened at Twitter, and this is really like the downfall of Twitter. Twitter felt like they had godlike powers because they banned the president of the United States during a national crisis, which was dangerous. When President Trump wasn't only their number one consumer, he was the number one draw to the platform, President Trump. And when they banned him, showed arrogance and stupidity, like we're seeing in this court case against Elon Musk, where he's going to have discovery. And at some point, the judge is going to order that Twitter disclose the real numbers on the bots. And Elon Musk is not a fool. He puts people in space. So he has top computer scientists, and they'll analyze that to find out if it's accurate information that they give or not. And Twitter, through their arrogance, because they're like, you know what they are? They're like dictators that have been overthrown, and they're trying to cling on to power. They're like Napoleon on that little island, Elba, you know. And it's about to go down, Twitter. And Truth Social, even without it being in the Google Play Store, is going to be the social media platform that drives the news. I was in shock.
It already is. But during the election, I think you're right, even more so.
Well, I've seen, even on CNN, them doing screenshots of Trump's post on Truth.
Yeah, they're starting to quote it more.
And they show the screenshot. And at first they didn't do it because they're like, we're not going to get publicity to Truth Social.
They can't help
And now
themselves.
They're doing. Oh, I wanted to mention something because I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the answer to this question. And since we have stupid reporters now who don't ask questions, they don't ask questions, okay? The New York City bodega worker that was charged with murder, the charges have been dropped. Remember, he stabbed the guy that was robbing him, defending his life, charged him with murder. This is what I don't know about this. And if someone out there knows the answer to this, either way, let us know in the comments. Okay, this guy doesn't own the bodega. He's not the business owner. He's a clerk, right? He just works there, like works at a convenience store.
That's right.
He was arrested. So when he fills out job applications and they ask if he's ever been arrested, he now has to put down yes for the rest of his life. And
I'm not sure how it works if they drop the charges.
I think he's still been arrested. I don't know. I've never been arrested. But
I think it asks, have you ever been convicted?
I think it says if you...
Depends on the application.
I haven't filled out a job application in a long time, like a traditional job application, okay? So you guys out there who have... My recollection is job application... I know I sound like a bum. I haven't filled out it. When I have a job, I stick with it for a long time. And in radio, they don't really have job applications. You know what I mean? But I know it sounds kind of ridiculous. You know, Kathy, you want me to give me an application for the podcast? But I think the job applications ask, have you ever been arrested? Not have you been convicted?
It depends. I wanted to talk about this thing with Stephen Colbert's crew.
Is it the Colbert 7 or Colbert 9?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was it 7 or 9? I've lost count.
I don't know. But it's amazing how they were trespassing on the Capitol Hill property without permission. Now
and seeking out members of Congress, including female members of Congress.
And their charges were dropped.
And banging on congressional office doors.
doing exactly what other people were charged for doing on January 6th, like this grandma, Pamela Hemphill, who went to jail for 60 days, who just went to jail last week.
The cancer survivor?
To serve her sentence, yeah. She just was walking through. She said she was pushed in the building, and she was just walking, wasn't banging on anything, just walking through, sentenced to 2 months. And then
federal prison.
These jerks, federal prison. Can you imagine at that point in her life?
That means she has to go through like the body cavity searches and all that stuff. It's humiliating. Humiliating.
And then these guys who work for Colbert did the same thing. Walking through, they did worse, and their charges were dropped. And if that does not tell you how fake all of this BS is, and how phony these arrests are, I don't know what will. I mean, think about it. I'm sorry, but you got to be honest here and objective. Now, I know there were people that were being destructive, and we can talk about who that was at another time. We all know. But the majority of people that were arrested for January 6th were people that were walking through the building and just walking and not doing anything, not destroying anything, and they got arrested for trespassing.
That's right.
Trespassing, that is it. Like, she was charged with trespassing. Well, the comedian Robert Smigel, who does Triumph the Dog, who is very funny, by the way, very funny, he got charged with trespassing too. He probably was on property longer than her, and his charges were dropped. That should tell you that these charges are phony BS that they're doing to the January 6 people to make it look like they want to have as many arrests as possible so they can say we have 500 people arrested, and to make it look like as large of an incident as possible and as threatening as they possibly can. But these a-holes that work for Colbert who walked in and were banging on doors and all this, their charges were dropped. I mean, it's outrageous.
Well, I'll tell you a couple things about it. Now,
it's outrageous.
I have been, for as long as I can remember, a fan of that insult comic dog.
Oh, he's so funny. He's been on a lot of comics.
I'll never watch him again.
Very funny guy.
I'll never watch him again. You know why? It's not going to be funny to me anymore because the guy's a jerk and who did this. But here, the fantasy that they had was, you know, as the midterm elections approached, they thought it was going to be MAGA on trial. There were going to be 200 to 400 trials going on, MAGA on trial. And the whole country was going to be following it like the days of the O.J. Simpson trial. And none of that happened because minor trespassing charges. And the Colbert, I don't remember if it's the Colbert 7 or the Colbert 9, they were worse. They were removed from the building and by the Capitol Police, came back. They were banging on the offices of members of Congress, and they were seeking out people like Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So you have these men who are really creepy, these comedians. You see these guys?
Yeah.
They're creeps.
They all look like they need to take a bath.
Guy goes around with a puppet on his hand all the time. He never takes the puppet off his hand.
Probably not. He probably wears it while he's having sex.
And they're seeking seeking out women. It's frightening.
It is.
And it's inappropriate. It's wrong.
I feel so bad for that grandmother, and I really hope that Trump, if he when he gets in, I shouldn't say if, when he gets in, pardons all of them.
He should be running on that.
I think he will. And I would love to see him, when she gets out of jail, I'd love to see him bring her to a rally and bring her up on stage and give her a hug and introduce her and let her talk about it.
And promise he's going to pardon her.
And honestly, I would love to see him bring her to a rally and let her talk about it and what happened.
President Carter did something very controversial. He gave a blanket pardon to the draft dodgers.
Yeah, so he did that.
And the draft dodgers that ran to Canada, that left the United States and were hiding, and so they could come back to the United States. And that was very controversial at the time. But, you know, he's a Democrat, so he has immunity. He can do whatever he wants. So President Trump doing that, pardoning the January Sixers, there's a history of that because of the Carter blanket pardon with the draft dodgers. And I want you to think about that. Those draft dodgers, there are people who had their spot and were killed because they dodged the draft. Think about that. You know, some of those draft dodgers would have been in combat, and they might have been the one that stepped on a landmine or got shot by by a North Vietnamese as opposed to someone who, and they got pardoned and they're championed as heroes.
I know. I just don't.
So he should pardon these people.
That's a whole other
topic.
He should. I don't know how I feel about giraffes and stuff. You shouldn't be forced to go kill people. For a war that shouldn't even be happening. But it wasn't like World War II.
But they committed crimes. Right. Those draft dodgers that probably got other people killed because their spots were taken by people.
Yeah.
And,
that's true.
And they were given a blanket pardon. The January Sixers didn't get anyone killed. No. Okay. And it's less controversial in my view to pardon them. I think he should run on that. Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there is much more to talk about. Let us know what you think in the comments. Should President Trump, not should he pardon the January Sixers? I think most of you that are MAGA agree. Should he campaign on that? Should one of President Trump's campaign promises be, I will pardon the January Sixers?
We'll put a poll up too. You guys can answer the poll on the page.
All right, we'll take that break and be right back.
See this guy with the pillows on Fox? My pillow guy, Mike Lindell. Where is Mike? He is the greatest. First of all, he does make a great product, great pillows. I actually use them, believe it or not. He's been a supporter from day one. The My Pillow guy, thank you. And he's been with us right from the beginning.
As always, President Trump is right. The MyPillow is so good, even President Trump sleeps on one. Support Mike Lindell, President Trump, and the Steve Kane Show at the same time. Go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout for huge savings on MyPillow products. Promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at MyPillow.com. If you're a Christian and looking to do more, be more, and see more in the kingdom of God, there's a book that will help to inspire you and build your faith. If you feel a little lost in your Christian walk or are curious about how you can serve God, the book from author Charles G. Robinette, Radically Apostolic, available on Amazon, will serve as a map for your journey. Experience apostolic equipping and impartation, activate the power of prophetic prayer, and operate in dominion and authority. This must-read book is filled with testimonials of miracles, and it's available in 5 languages. Radically Apostolic from author Charles G. Robinette is available on Amazon. You can also follow the author on social media for more information and fellowship. Order your copy right now. Radically Apostolic from author Charles G. Robinette on Amazon. When people fall on hard times, it's not always easy to ask for help. So when they do, you know they truly need it. Grace Smith and her dog Gizmo need a new home. Grace works 2 jobs and takes care of her disabled mom, which has caused her to fall behind on her bills and go into debt. Her car was repossessed. Grace has fallen on hard times, but you can help. Please donate what you can to help Grace with travel and gas expenses, paying her phone bill, as well as securing a new apartment for her and Gizmo. You can help Grace and Gizmo. Go to GoFundMe.com and search Please Help Gizmo. That's Please Help Gizmo on GoFundMe.com. Thanks for your help.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. President Trump spoke out on this controversy with the golfers, right? These golfers have been blacklisted by the PGA because they've made these humongous deals to play for that Saudi-backed thing.
I don't blame them. I mean, they're getting
the LIV golf,
millions and millions.
One of them's getting like $200 million or something.
I mean, for working for like a couple months a year. The PGA, they said they work all year round and they make a fraction.
Well, you know, and they're talking.
The money's too good to pass up.
They're talking about the human rights abuses about the Saudis. They're such hypocrites. Okay, the NBA and all the rest, they go over to China where they still have slavery.
There's human rights abuses everywhere. I mean, that's just the world that we live in. I mean, you know, people get murdered and killed and abused every day. I mean, what falls under that umbrella?
Exactly.
Of human rights abuses. I mean, you know, it happens all the time in every country.
Yeah.
Children are abused, women, men, it's unfortunately the way the world is. It's a fallen world. So how is it any different than, like you said, them going to China and the employees and which they all do and having deals with them or this? I mean, you can't avoid it. I mean, so how is that going to change what these countries do? And it doesn't change a thing.
If they had a moral stand and said we're not going to do business in China, but they're all over that. And so anyway, President Trump it's ridiculous. Has weighed in on this. And President Trump, he's big into golf.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I remember on The Apprentice, they had more than one challenge that involved golf tournaments on The Apprentice.
Yeah, he's got that big golf course in Scotland where his mother's from. That's where golf was invented.
And he's got golf courses all around the country here.
And he loves golf.
And, golf is interesting and everything. I never really got into it. Kathy's dad is big in the golf.
He plays like 4 days a week. And he's like Trump. He plays all the time.
When we first got married, Kathy's dad tried to get me into golf, and I just
now my nephew, my brother-in-law is really big into golf, and he plays with my dad all the time. And his son, my nephew, is better than him. He's really good. He's in high school, and he's a fantastic golfer apparently. But yeah, my dad loves it. Plays it almost every day, and he doesn't. I ask him, "Do you get bored?" He's like, "No."
I like it. I haven't played golf that many times, but my stepfather, who's passed away, but he was big in the golf, and he picked up golf in his later years. He didn't golf his whole life, and he picked up golf, and I went golfing with him a few times, and I like it. I like golf a lot, but Kathy will tell you, I don't know. I wouldn't say I've got like short attention span, but I'm a restless guy. And I am always working, even when I don't have to work.
Yeah, you're obsessed with work.
And I can't, I can't go out and golf, which is like a whole day affair.
You're worried about work the whole time.
Exactly. And
you can't relax.
I can't go out for hours on the golf course.
It drives you nuts.
And not be working.
No,
I know that sounds stupid.
No, that's how you
but I can't do it. I can't do it. And even if I'm, when we do our listener cruises, I'm working on the cruise ship.
Yeah. You work every day.
On the next cruise, this is not written in stone yet, but I may even broadcast the radio show some of the time live from the ship. And I've been talking with the cruise line.
You just love your job.
They're setting up a radio studio for me because I can't I have to be in a place in the morning where I can do a show and talk loudly. I can't do it from my cabin. So they're ready to set up a radio studio for me on the cruise ship, and I don't know if I'm going to do that or not.
Nice.
Because the thing about that is if I do that, I can't stay up late at night and drink and party as much as I normally do on the cruise. But anyway, President Trump weighed in on this. Listen to this. This is on Fox News. President Donald Trump, they say former president, but, I've never seen.
He's always president to us.
Whenever they talk about Clinton or Obama, they never say former President Obama. They always say President Obama, president. It's only with him.
Because it's a disrespect.
Exactly.
It's a disrespect.
At least they could say future.
And that's what we should say.
47. No, President Donald Trump has been vocal with his criticisms of the PGA Tour since LIV Golf arrived on the scene. Now he's bringing PGA Tour players into the conversation by sending them a warning about their future. President Trump sees a merger between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour coming.
Really?
And he knows what he's talking about because golf is his life, and he knows all these guys, so he knows what's going on, right? He's got PGA courses.
Yeah.
Okay. Trump sees a merger between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour coming, and for any of the players who don't make the move to the Saudi-backed circuit, well, they'll be getting nothing. All of those golfers that remain loyal, President Trump says, to the very disloyal PGA in all of its different forms will pay a big price when the inevitable merger with LIV comes. And you get nothing but a big thank you from PGA officials who are making millions of dollars a year, Trump wrote on Truth Social. If you don't take the money now, you will get nothing after the merger takes place and only say how smart the original signees were. LIV Golf has been able to sign many big-time players away from the PGA Tour, including Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, some of these others I've not heard of.
So where is this tour? Is this tour going to go on here around the world in the Middle East? Where is this
my guess
tour
would be
going to happen? I'll ask my dad. He knows, he watches all the golf tournaments.
Well, here's one they're doing that's in Portland, Oregon.
So it's going to be around the country. They're making their own.
Worldwide. I would imagine it would be worldwide.
Well, hopefully they'll make it more interesting to watch somehow.
I tell people this sometimes.
Terminally boring.
One of this is an amazing thing.
I'll watch the tournaments at first.
This was a really cool thing that happened to me many years ago. One of the cool things about living in Florida is because everyone retires to Florida.
That's true.
And the old people we have here, you would be amazed at people you meet in Florida.
Well, my mom knows this because she does home health nursing with elderly people. And she's always telling me stories. She had one patient who, this was a long time ago, but he put up all the lights in Times Square. And he worked for the company back in the 20s and 30s. Yeah. And she meets all kinds of people. A lot of them are from New York. And she has patients that were producers, directors, and
well, I met this listener once. I don't know how this came up. Somebody called in on the air. Something was going on with Tiger Woods at the time during one of the Tiger Woods scandals, or maybe it may have been when he just won the Masters. I can't remember what it was. And I had said, I don't understand why people watch golf on television. Yeah. It is like the most boring thing to watch on television I've ever seen. I mean, I would rather watch bowling on TV than watch golf.
I don't know. That's pretty bad.
They used to televise bowling. Remember, used to see, that's Kathy's ringer is SpongeBob.
They
so
don't
anyway,
do that anymore, but bowling's pretty bad.
So anyway, this guy came to a personal appearance, and he was an old guy. He was retired, and he was a retired executive from CBS Sports, and he brought a memo, not a copy, an original memo that was sent out by the president of CBS Sports at the time. CBS will never carry golf. It's like watching grass grow, and this long thing.
Literally.
And then CBS, they have it's golf all day. CBS Sports on the weekend. So it's kind of funny, but this is an interesting thing about it. And I know there's a lot of mixed feelings because there's a lot of controversies with this. I don't care about Khashoggi, but there's a lot of controversies with Saudi Arabia because of 9/11, and they're not supporters of Israel. A lot of anti-Semitism going on there.
Do we avoid Japan because of
the
Pearl
Second
Harbor?
World War? No.
I mean,
no.
Come on.
No. That was a long time. That was longer ago.
Doesn't matter. We still rebuilt Japan and worked with Japan in the 60s.
But you know what?
So it's, we're supposed to alter all of our lives and everything because of something that happened. I mean, it was a horrible thing. I'm not going to sound like Omar here. It was a horrible thing. Yeah. But that was like a generation ago.
What did she say? Some people did some things.
Yeah. So I don't mean to sound like her. Forgive me.
That.
But it was, a generation ago. It has nothing to do with what's happening.
I don't agree with Kathy about all that, but that's okay.
Well, but you're okay with the golf tournament.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
Well, here's the thing about sports in this country. Yeah. It really amazes me. I'm not talking about these spoiled athletes that get paid millions of dollars for playing children's games that are always whining. I'm talking about like the sports media people. The sports commentators are so radically liberal.
Oh, yes. They are very liberal on ESPN.
And,
shocking.
And, shocking. And the reason I like this golf thing happening to the PGA is because these liberal jerks in the sports media that have this fake moral stand when they're all doing business with China and North Korea and all this stuff, they're against it. And it ticks them off. So that's kind of like I'm for it.
Okay, I want to say something here. Libs of TikTok, who's always good, has just truthed something a minute ago. Merriam-Webster has changed their definition of the word
"get out of
girl."
Time.
Now you know how in a dictionary you have multiple definitions. So the old definition of girl, which is a noun, is a female child from birth to adulthood, daughter, a young woman. A single or married woman of any age. That's the old definition. Here's the new definition. Girl, noun, a female child from birth to adulthood. A person whose gender identity is female. That's the new definition.
Identity.
A person whose gender identity is female. That is the new definition of a woman.
Yeah.
According to Merriam-Webster, If you identify as a female, you are now officially a girl.
Well, here's my definition.
Which is insane.
Here's my definition. A person with a vagina, that's a girl.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're walking around with a penis, you're a dude.
That's
if you
correct.
have the chromosomes for guys, I think X and Y, you're a man. But, they call us the science deniers. Look, I think they need to redefine this term here.
What term? Girl?
For transgender people. I think they need to say trans girl or trans man instead of
trans man.
Trans man. It sounds like a science fiction
Trans
movie.
am, like a car. Trans man.
Whatever. Trans girl, a trans female, and a trans male. Put it that way. That should be how they identify as. I'm a trans female. I'm a trans male.
Yeah.
And they should not be allowed to participate in sports of the gender they identify as, but as the gender they are in birth. And we read a story the other day that they had a guy in prison who identified as a woman, and they threw him out because he impregnated a bunch of women in the jail. That they transferred him to a male jail. I mean, people in prison have sex. I mean, that's the way it is.
Okay.
They got nothing else to do.
Since you brought up this trans thing, just one last thing I wanted to mention before we say goodbye. Kathy and I have been watching the latest season of Survivor, and we're like many weeks behind. We're watching it like on demand on the Paramount app. And, we just watch like an episode before I go to bed at night. I haven't watched Survivor in years, and they've changed it up this year. It's actually, I think it's pretty good this year. But anyway, they had one tribes member who came out as trans, who was born a woman who has become a man. And let me tell you, this was a good transformation. I had no clue. Even after he said he is a trans man and was born a woman, you could not tell. You could not tell.
Sounds like the name of a superhero. Trans man.
Trans man. I don't know. Superheroes have changed. But anyway,
that's what I mean.
Anyway, Survivor did something here, and I think they were incredibly dishonest. I'll tell you what it is real quick here. So anyway, this trans man who...
See, now I got you saying the term.
I called him trans man when we were watching it the other night. The trans man? Yeah. But anyway, the trans man who you could not tell that this guy was born a woman.
No.
You could not tell. Yeah.
Definitely looked like a dude.
A thicker beard than I could grow, I'll tell you that,
Hairy legs and everything.
And everything, yeah. But anyway, so the trans man, nobody knew. And I think he was a little upset that no one knew that he was a trans man. So he got up and made this huge pronouncement speech to the whole tribe, letting everyone know he's a trans man.
And why even do that? If you want to be a man, why do you need to tell people? It was so strange. If it's so important for you to be seen as a man, if you're trans and you are living as a man and you've had maybe you've had the operation, I don't know, had everything cut off, put on or whatever it works, the boobs cut off. If it is so important for you to be seen as a man, why do you keep reminding everybody or telling everybody you were a chick?
Exactly.
It makes no sense to me.
You're not really living as a man if you're telling everybody you're a trans man.
Exactly. And he did it right off the bat, too, right away.
But here's what they did on Survivor that I think they lied to the viewers about the trans man. Now, obviously, Survivor is CBS. They are very woke. Last season, it might have been the season before, Jeff Probst announced that he will no longer say, "Come on, guys," to get the group together because that's too gender specific. Remember that?
Yes.
What a pansy.
We turned it off.
What a pansy he is. We stopped watching.
We're not watching this season.
We stopped watching. It was so stupid and woke.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Okay, so that's how woke they are. And okay. So this was on day one. Trans man comes out. After the first night, Jeff Probst comes to the tribe's camp, which he never does, and takes the trans man aside and says that CBS, Survivor, and the medical team on Survivor have made the decision that trans man, you have to leave the island and go back home. And they came up with some cover story that he's on lithium, which requires blood tests on occasion to monitor it. I don't think that's the case. They're out there in some remote island. I think they're in Tahiti this year. Transgender people are on a lot of medications for the transgender transformations and things like this. Yeah. I think that lithium was a cover story. I think that the trans man is on so many transgender meds that they can't properly medicate and test him to monitor those medications while they're on the remote island. And also, they don't have a lot of food. They're in a harsh condition. There's a lot of dehydration and everything. I think the lithium was a cover story because we've heard a lot about problems that you don't hear about this anymore because they don't want to talk about it. But when there was first talk of having transgender members of the service, which we now have, we got this admiral, this 4-star admiral, that's the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services. But there was a lot of talk from military medical experts who said transgender people are on a lot of medications, and in combat zones, it's just too much medical to be monitoring. So I think this trans man on Survivor, he said, this was an interesting thing. He said that he applied to Survivor years ago as a woman and didn't get on. And Jeff Probst said that he hid his condition from them. They said that was the lithium. I think he snuck on the show as a transgender person without telling them because he's probably got a new passport and everything else. And they didn't know, and they can't handle medically a transgendered person in this remote location under these harsh conditions. And I think they don't want to put that out there, so they came up with the lithium cover story.
Maybe. And I think they have to continually take those meds.
Yes, and they have to be monitored.
Their whole life to fight what nature has created. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
They even if they have surgical alterations, they have to continue to take medications their entire life to trick the body into thinking it's something it's not.
Correct.
Hormones and suppress certain hormones, elevate other hormones. They have to do that. So
well, listen, guys, we are all out of time, but we will be back next time. My name is Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks everyone for listening.
We want to mention the replay on the YouTube channel of the Steve Kane radio show. We have started replaying the radio show, the audio only, not the video of you, but the audio of the show, which goes across the radio, so you don't miss a thing. And it replays from 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. on the Eastern time on your YouTube page.
And we also have a live chat during those 6 hours.
Right, there's a live chat during those 6 hours. And what's your YouTube? Brian Craig on YouTube. And there's a live chat all night long with the replay of the show of the day, not the previous show. Today's show will replay tonight, and we're going to do that pretty much every day.
Well, hey, guys, check that out. Brian Craig on YouTube is my YouTube channel. We'll talk to you next time.
For fine handmade leather goods, look no further than Alice Forge on Etsy. This is a Canadian company that specializes in leather products and accessories, as well as wooden items. Everything is top quality, handmade by a team of intelligent and talented artisans. They have stunning wallets, leather notebook covers, jewelry, signs, and much more. Everything is made with great care and attention to detail. All the items in the shop make great gifts and can be personalized. They also sew digital SVG patterns, so you can make your own goods. Check them out right now on Etsy.com. Just search Alice Forge. That's all one word. ALIS. Alice Forge on Etsy.com.